Good Thursday, everyone, and welcome to this edition of Conversation Daily News. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. Glad you all could join us once again. Of course, you have your news headlines coming up on this Thursday. We have a message from my book, Words I Choose to Live By. And in today's Entertainment Spotlight, you'll be part of my conversation with Tech Expert Andrea Smith, discussing some great tech tips for your kids as they're heading back to school. Enjoy today's broadcast. For Conversation Daily News, I'm Cyrus Webb with your Thursday headlines. In international news, 22 reported killed in Independence Day attack in Ukraine. Russian forces Wednesday launched a rocket attack on a Ukrainian train station on the embattled country's Independence Day, killing 22 people, President Zelensky said after warning for days that Moscow might attempt something particularly cruel this week. The lethal attack took place in a town about 3,500 people in the central of one of the regions. Ukrainian news agencies quoted Zelensky as telling the UN Security Council via video. The president's office also reported that an 11-year-old child was killed by rocket fire earlier in the day in the settlement. At one point, Zelensky put the number of wounded at about 50. The deputy head of Zelensky's office later said 22 people were wounded in the attack, which hit 5 passenger rail cars. Ukraine had been bracing for especially heavy attacks around the national holiday that commemorates Ukraine's declaration of independence from the Soviet Union in 1991. Wednesday also marked the 6-month point in the war. Days ahead of Independence Day, Kyiv authorities banned large gatherings in the capital through today for fear of missile strikes. Residents of Kyiv, which has been largely spared in recent months, woke up Wednesday to air raid sirens, but no immediate strikes followed. As the day wore on, Russian bombardments were reported in the country's east, west, and center, with the most serious attack apparently at the train station. Outgoing British Prime Minister Boris Johnson marked the holiday with a visit to Kyiv, his third since the war broke out, and other European leaders used the occasion to pledge unwavering support for Ukraine, locked in a battle that was widely expected to be a lightning conquest by Moscow, but has turned into a grinding war of attrition. U.S. President Joe Biden announced a new military aid package of nearly $3 billion to help Ukrainian forces fight for years to come. Over the weekend, Zelensky cautioned that Russia may try to do something particularly nasty, something particularly cruel this week. He repeated the warnings ahead of the train station attack, saying Russian provocations and brutal strikes are a possibility. In national news, big student loan forgiveness plan announced by Biden. President Joe Biden on Wednesday announced detailed plans to deliver on a campaign promise to provide $10,000 in student debt cancellation for millions of Americans and up to $10,000 more for those with the greatest financial need, along with measures to lower the burden of repayment for their remaining federal student debt. Borrowers who earn less than $125,000 a year or families earning less than $250,000 a year will be eligible for the $10,000 loan forgiveness, Biden announced on Wednesday. For those who also receive Pell Grants, which are reserved for undergraduates with the most significant financial need, the federal government would cancel up to an additional $10,000 in federal loan debt. Both of these targeted actions are for families who need it the most. Working and middle-class people hit especially hard during the pandemic, Biden said in remarks at the White House Wednesday afternoon. Biden is also extending a pause on all federal student loan payments for what he called the final time through the end of 2022. If his plan survives legal challenges that are almost certain to come, it could offer a windfall to many in the run-up to this fall's midterm elections. In more national news, officers won't face any charges in Rayshard Brooks shooting. 2 Atlanta police officers who clashed with Rayshard Brooks acted reasonably during the 2020 encounter that ended with the 27-year-old black man's fatal shooting, a specially appointed prosecutor said on Tuesday in announcing his decision not to pursue charges against them. Officer Garrett Roth, who shot and killed Brooks in June 2020, and Officer Devin Brosnan faced a quickly evolving situation when Brooks lunged and grabbed one of their tasers during an arrest attempt, said the executive director of the Prosecuting Attorneys Council of Georgia. We did not look at this with 2020 hindsight. Given the quickly changing circumstances, was it objectively reasonable that he used deadly force? And we concluded it was. The shooting happened against the backdrop of heightened tensions and protests nationwide after the death of George Floyd under the knee of a Minneapolis police officer less than 3 weeks earlier. And finally, in business news, stocks edged higher as Wall Street waits for Fed speech. Stocks ticked higher Wednesday as Wall Street waits for a highly anticipated speech about interest rates at the end of the week. The S&P 500 edged up 12 points, or 0.3%, to 4,141 as traders overall again held off on making big moves. The Dow Jones Industrial Average added 60 points or 0.2% to close at 32,969, and the Nasdaq Composite rose 50 points or 0.4% to close at 12,431. It's the second straight day of modest moves for the market, but they follow some severe swings up and down over the prior weeks. Cyrus Webb, Conversations Daily News. It's now time for a message from my book, Words I Choose to Live By. Enjoy. Good Thursday, everyone. I'm Cyrus Webb, and welcome to Words I Choose to Live By. Real happiness cannot be tied to a person, place, or thing. It starts with you loving the person you were created to be and realizing that you are at your best living life as an individual. Have an amazing Thursday. We are part of my conversation coming up with Tech Expert Andrea Smith in today's Entertainment Spotlight. Stay with us. You're listening to Conversation Daily News. For Conversation Daily News, I'm Cyrus Webb with Entertainment Spotlight. Tech expert Andrea Smith rejoined me on Conversations Live, the radio show, to share some great back-to-school tech tips for your kids. It's a bit of our conversation.
Well, this is always an important topic because, of course, when we think about our students, Andrea, of course, we want them to be able to have exactly what they need. So what type of tech do students need for the back-to-school season?
Well, whether they're going to school at home or in the dorm, students really need a good laptop. We've talked about that a lot. And then they also need a printer for all of those papers and projects they're going to be working on. And what they don't need is to run out of ink or paper at the worst possible time. That's why HP's Instant Ink subscription service is so important. This is convenient and cost-effective. Printer ink and paper get delivered to you when you're running low. There's different plans for every family, no matter how much you print. And with Instant Ink and a compatible printer, your student gets ink on demand when they need it. And I really like that there's a shipping label in every box you get sent to recycle the old cartridges.
What else can we set students up for, Andrea, for success this school year? What else do you recommend?
Well, think about the way students are learning. They're really expressing themselves in incredibly creative ways. So give them the tools to create their own vision with Adobe Express. This is a free web and mobile-based app filled with easy-to-use professional design tools to help them create everything from science fair posters to infographics and much more. There's thousands of templates customized for education to get them started. Teachers and students can collaborate on projects, which is really helpful, especially for those without any design experience. And it gives teachers the ability to kind of view and moderate student projects in progress. So this is just a really great tool.
Cyrus Webb, Conversations Daily News. We thank you all for tuning into this edition of Conversations Daily News. We'll be back to guys on tomorrow to wrap up this week. Until then, I'm your host, Cyrus Webb, saying as always, enjoy your day, enjoy your life, enjoy your world. Thank you all for choosing Conversations Daily News today. Then let's go make it a great one.